Starting with Path A, Italy against Northern Ireland, and the winner will face Wales against Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Yeah, I'm going to throw this one back to you in a minute, Gab, because obviously you've got certain connections to the Italian team, and I know you have very strong opinions on Gennaro Gattuso right now, whether he should still be the coach by the time we play these games. But I think Italy will be happy with Northern Ireland at home in the first game. I think they would have been slightly concerned about maybe getting Sweden after what happened in 2017 ahead of 2018 World Cup when Sweden knocked them out. But I do think that the away game and the second game, I expect that to be Wales. I think Wales will beat Bosnia Herzegovina in Cardiff. And Craig Bellamy's made a big point about this, that playing at home is a massive thing for Wales. They have got a great record in Cardiff at not the big stadium, but the smaller Cardiff City Stadium, and they've got a real opportunity, I think, to progress. And I think the one thing we can expect if it's Wales Italy in the final is Bellamy versus Gattuso on the touchline could be the most exciting thing of the game.
Yeah, it's a good point about the stadiums here, because you mentioned that Wales will have to decide whether they want to play at the Millennium Stadium. Obviously, much bigger crowd, but you lose some of that intimacy. Italy facing a similar choice, because not that long ago you would have said, all right, you'll play at San Siro at the Olympic Stadium in Rome. Now all the buzz is they may end up they want to play in Bergamo at Atalanta Stadium, which is much smaller. I think well under 30,000 seats. A compact atmosphere. Does it play to their advantage?
Where did he play North Macedonia? Wasn't that at a smaller ground in 2022?
It may not surprise you, but I have wiped all memories of that game.
I'm sure
from my mind, so I have no idea where they played.
I'm sure they tried that, but just on playing at what is now called the Principality Stadium, the players hate it. The players and Bellamy will not go for playing there. Even though it will get 80,000 people at the stadium, the players hate playing there. They want it. They want to create what they call the Red Wall in Cardiff, where they've got this fantastic atmosphere. I don't know if you saw the national anthem before the game against North Macedonia midweek. It's a really passionate ground, and these small margins matter, especially at a World Cup playoff. If Wales think they can get an extra edge by playing in front of that red wall, there's no way they're going to take it to the Principality Stadium.
Right. I love the fact that you've gotten ahead of yourself and you're already assuming it's an Italy-Wales final. I think we need to respect Northern Ireland and Bosnia here as well. And I think, there's not much romance necessarily about Northern Ireland. Not a lot of players who play in the Premier League. Connor Bradley, a couple guys at Sunderland, as you reminded me, including the bloke who used to be at Arsenal and scored against Arsenal not that long ago, Dan Ballard. But I think what you're going to get is exactly what has undone Italy in the past, and why they're in this position to begin with, is they struggle to open up opponents who sit and hit you on the break and hit you with long balls. So I don't think this is by any means a foregone conclusion, although Italy obviously favorites. As for Bosnia, I'm kind of rooting for the 40-year-old Edin Dzeko to dig deep and use his mind and his skill, because obviously his body at this stage is what it is, against Wales. But I agree with you, Wales are favorites here.
Just by the way, Gab, it was in Palermo, the North Macedonia game. So I think Italy against Northern Ireland, they should play at the biggest stadium they can, play at the Olympic Stadium, make it intimidating, just get over the line and get that game against Wales.
Bergamo will do for me. Looking at Path B, we have Ukraine hosting Sweden, although obviously that won't be in Ukraine. That's going to be in Poland. And Poland hosting Albania, presumably also in Poland. Ukraine against Sweden. This is an interesting one. Sweden, of course, were god awful in qualifying. I don't know how relevant that is, because it could be a very different Sweden side come March. Obviously, maybe by that point, Isak is fit and firing. Potter won't have had any more games, but he will have had time, a little bit of time to bed in anyway, in terms of the atmosphere. I find Ukraine against Sweden really, really tough to call here.
Yeah, I just think Sweden the luckiest team on earth, because you're right. You've got Isak, you've got Gyökeres, you've got Anthony Elanga. They've got proper forwards that can hurt teams. I think they've been so bad in qualification, and they shouldn't even be in this playoff. But because they had a good Nations League campaign, they're actually getting through to the playoffs. They didn't even win a game in qualification. So for me, they're going to qualify. They'll beat Ukraine, because Ukraine playing at home in a neutral venue lose the kind of advantage, and then that means they get a final at home against probably Poland or Albania. Tough one to call. I think Albania are very good. But if Sweden have a home game, in Stockholm to qualify for the World Cup with Isak, with Gyökeres, they'll win. So for me, I'm going to go for Sweden unfairly to make it all the way to the World Cup.
Well, you're being harsh slightly on Sweden there, but yeah, Poland, I think, difficult to read because obviously there's some big names there, Zelensky, and obviously Robert Lewandowski still banging them in, but it's weird because I kind of feel like in qualifying, we even saw in their last game against Malta, and you can say it was a dead rubber, but in some ways it was, but twice they took the lead, twice they let Malta get back into it. It's that they've had internal issues, of course, in recent years. And I'm seeing a stat now from our producer that they lost just one game in qualifying. Well, sure, but you're in a group with Lithuania and Malta. I would hope so.
Yeah.
If we want to make bold predictions, I find this really, really difficult. I think any one of these four. I mean, you just said Albania with Silvino. They're tight. They work hard. They got tremendous team spirit. For me, this foursome is pretty much a toss-up. Moving on to Group C, Turkey hosting Romania and Slovakia hosting Kosovo. Two Italian managers in Vincenzo Montella for Turkey and Tullio Calzona for Slovakia. Look, Turkey are stacked. They're loaded. This is a really, really talented team. Never mind the result against Spain, although they did get a 2-2 draw. That was Spain's B or C team, and that was Turkey's B team too. Yildiz, Arda Güler. I kind of feel like if Turkey stumble, it's because they're their own worst enemy here.
I agree, and I think they'll comfortably beat Romania in the first game. But what makes it difficult for Turkey for me, I think they'll play Kosovo in the final. And Kosovo in Pristina, I mean, that's good. I mean, Kosovo beat Turkey, Pristina is going to be a hell of an atmosphere. And I think, can you imagine obviously all countries want to qualify for a World Cup, but I think Kosovo have got this kind of unique kind of, national pride. And I just think that would be such a huge game. And Kosovo have been good. They were very good in qualification. They could have qualified through their group, but for a couple of late results for Switzerland. So I think Kosovo could beat Turkey. I think that they're a good team. But you're right. If Turkey turn up, they'll go through. But I've just got an inkling for Kosovo.
Let's not forget the Pristina effect there. Moving on to Path D, we have Denmark hosting North Macedonia and the Czech Republic hosting, or Czechia, as some people call them now, hosting the Republic of Ireland with Czechia hosting the final if they advance.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like me, you watched that incredible Scotland versus Denmark game in midweek, and Denmark really should have won that game. Denmark controlled the game but couldn't get the goals, and I do think if this group goes to form, I think Denmark will qualify. But yeah, Denmark are a hard team to call. They've got great talent, but they don't often translate it. So North Macedonia got hammered by Wales 7-1, but they've still got pedigree to shock teams. So I'm going to go for Republic of Ireland facing North Macedonia in the final.
I'm shocked that you would pick the Republic of Ireland. Look, I think when it comes to Denmark, I think a lot's going to depend on how kind of they bounce back psychologically from this nightmarish week they had, obviously with the Belarus result, and then later, against Scotland in a game where they can turn around and say that should have never been a sending off. We were undone, but it doesn't change the fact that you kind of threw that game away. Right, you still had the game at 10 versus 11. I don't know. I expect Denmark to bounce back like you. I think everybody's been underestimating the Czech Republic, to be perfectly honest. This is a team that maybe doesn't have the flash that they've had in the past, but they have a lot of quality and they've shown themselves to be a decent tournament team. So for me, Czech Republic versus Republic of Ireland is very much a toss-up. For me, the interesting thing is, do you go with Troy Parrott, assuming that he's still hot, or if you and Ferguson, do you let sanity prevail and put you and Ferguson in there? Or maybe even play them both at the same time?
You've got to go for Troy Parrott. And let me just, on the Czechs, by the way, they lost to the Faroes in the qualifications in October. Yeah. So they lost away to the Faroes 2-1. So that means that Ireland will go there with confidence. And I'm going to take football logic out of this. I think, on paper, the Czechs should win, but I think Ireland have got this buzz about them right now. And I just think Ireland at a World Cup would, especially in America, after what happened. Sorry, I don't want to recreate memories of '94, Gab, with Italy and Ireland, Ray Houghton, but I just think the Irish fans would make it a great spectacle, and the Italian fans. So I'm backing Ireland to win the final against North Macedonia in Dublin. What a night that would be. I went to see New Caledonia play Gibraltar recently to do a feature on this tiny archipelago in the South Pacific. Has a chance
As you do.
Yeah, and their coach, a French guy called Johan Sidner, said, look, we've got a 1% chance of qualifying for the World Cup. Well, I still think that 1% might be a 2% chance, but the world rankings, New Caledonia are 149th in the FIFA World Rankings, so they're way down the list. Jamaica, they're sitting at 70th, so you would expect Jamaica to be too strong for New Caledonia. They've got a squad of... Sorry, go.
No, go ahead.
No, they've got a squad of players that have got experience of, Premier League. They've got, a lot of European-based players. I just think that they'll have too much for New Caledonia, who, a very spirited side, but they've come out of Oceania having lost a final to New Zealand 3-0, so that they know what they're enjoying the experience. But I think Jamaica win that game and face Congo in the final, Congo DR.
Yeah, I think that we should also note that Jamaica may well have a new coach by the time March rolls around. Steve McLaren resigning after that home draw with Curacao, which is why they're in the playoffs to begin with. I thought it was kind of odd, just kind of resigning straight away. I mean, it's still your team. It's a team you've guided for a while into this path. Obviously, he took over once qualification had already started. They're going to need a new coach now. It just seemed a little odd, that whole dynamic. Either way, I think we both agree, whoever wins this one, Congo are going to be the heavy favorites in the final.
Yeah, I think, again, Congo, a bit like Jamaica, have got a squad of players that are based in Europe, and I just think they've got a bit more quality, and I think, that they should be able to see off Jamaica. And I agree with Steve McLaren. He hasn't failed yet. I mean, obviously, they should have beaten Curacao at home in the final game, but they've still got a chance of qualifying for the World Cup. And, this is, he's not had much look at international football, has he, Steve McLaren? Let's be honest.
No, I wouldn't have blamed him, blamed the Jamaican FA if they had sacked him after the game, because you can say he hasn't failed. No, he has failed. He's in the playoffs, and they haven't gotten any better. Jamaica, I think, with Costa Rica, the thinking was they should have walked CONCACAF, given that the big three, Canada, Mexico, and the US, aren't there. Instead, Costa Rica not even making the playoffs. Jamaica now having to go through this route. It's going to be, I think, all uphill for them once if they get to face Congo. Could get even worse, of course, if New Caledonia upend them. Looking at the other playoff path, semifinal is Bolivia against Suriname. The winner will get to face Iraq. Now, look, it's inevitable. Suriname, we're going to draw a parallel here a little bit with Curacao as well, right? You're talking about a country that's done well this time around, not as well as Curacao, obviously, but also exploiting to some degree the diaspora of players with Suriname roots around the world, primarily in Holland.
Yeah, coached by Stanley Menzo is, again, a player that we all
legendary Ajax goalkeeper, Stanley Menzo.
So that's the Dutch connection for you there. Look, I mean, it's a tough one to call this because Bolivia, their recent track record isn't great, and they've taken the playoff spot from the South American section. But they did beat Brazil about 6 months ago, so hard team to call. You'd expect Bolivia to have enough to beat Suriname, but I mean, who knows? I mean, in a one-off game, it's impossible to call this one. But I do think that I actually watched the second half of Iraq versus UAE in Basra the other night, and it was a crazy game, crazy finish. And I don't know. I just don't know whether Iraq might win this one. But when we get to the final, and we've spoken about the games we played in Mexico, was that Bolivia have the advantage of playing altitude. And if the final's in Guadalajara, then it's just the local conditions might suit Bolivia. I think it's a toss of a coin, this one.
I hate the altitude talk. I really, really hate it. Iraq, obviously, the two very different qualifying paths for Bolivia and Iraq, if we're assuming Bolivia advance. Obviously, Bolivia in South American qualifying, you play everybody home and away. It's very much a league format. Iraq coming through, I think, 5 rounds of qualifying in Asia. What they and the UAE considered a bit of a screw job with those groups of 3 in the previous round, which saw Saudi Arabia and Qatar advance to the World Cup. And then, of course, coming through with that dramatic penalty in the 17th minute of injury time. Wild stuff. It's such a contrast. Needless to say, these teams have never faced each other before. I'm definitely leaning Iraq on this one. Taking a look over at Europe. So the way it works here in Europe is there were 16 teams in the playoffs. They are ranked. They aren't ranked in pots, although it's a bit of an advantage in terms of, you avoid if you're in the top pot, you avoid the other teams in the top pot, and you get to play, if you're the higher ranked opponent, you get to play your first game. You get to play your semifinal essentially at home, and then the winner, of course, goes on to the final, which that was actually a free draw. So you could be home, could be away.